Good evening, and you are welcome to this World Press Conference powered by News.Band Television. I am Pastor Neka, and co-moderating with me today is Mr. Daniel Elomba. For today's theme, we are going to be discussing confronting Nigeria's challenge of nature conservation, oil spillage, and deforestation. And here as our guest, we have the Regional Councillor for International Union for the Conservation of Nature. She's also the Executive Director for Nigerian Environmental Study Action Team, Dr. Gloria Ujo. Thank you so much, Ma, for coming.
Thank you.
And we also have
it's a pleasure.
Chairman for Gallifrey Foundation. He's also Travel Century Okoban and the co-chair for Mission Blue, Mr. John Verminier. Thank you so much, sir, for coming.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? And we also have Antoinette Verminier. She's the co-founder for the Gallifrey Foundation, and she changes climate. It's a pleasure to have the both of you here.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, and we're going to start with Dr. Ujo. You're the Regional Councillor for the International Union for Conservation.
Neka, I'm sorry, just 1 second. I'm so sorry. Let's also recognize the presence of Miss Anne-Kyo Briggs. When she got wind of this Zoom meeting, she expressed an interest to join. Miss Briggs is from the Niger Delta, and we know that Niger Delta is the epicenter of Nigeria's environmental ecological problem. So, Miss Briggs, you are welcome to the program. She is a noteworthy environmental activist based in Nigeria and from the Niger Delta as well.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Ma. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to Dr. Ujo. You're the Regional Councillor for the International Union of Conservation of Nature and the Executive Director of Nigerian Environmental Study Action Team. Can you just tell us briefly, or as brief as possible, what exactly the IUCN does and some of your projects concerning today's theme? Dr. Ujo, if you're there.
Thank you, Augusta. And, it's a pleasure for me. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I already responded. Good evening to everyone. And it's my pleasure to be part of this meeting this evening. Yes, IUCN stands for Natural Resources. It's actually a World Conservation Union that was established. That was established in 1948. And of course, the main issue that concerns the union is to care for nature.
Okay, I guess Dr. Ujo has some network issues, so let us listen to Ms. Briggs. Ms. Briggs, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Ms. Briggs,
I'm giggling.
Okay, can you please tell us some of the problems the Niger Delta is facing concerning environmental challenges?
All right, I'm giggling because I was not really expecting to contribute at all. I wanted, when I saw the names, I was keen to hear. But yes, the Niger Delta for as long as I can remember, which is going all the way back to the late 60s, I have remembered that once they started exploring for oil and gas, it wasn't too long before we started noticing changes in our environment. I'm able to say this categorically because I grew up in the Niger Delta. I grew up in the creeks of the Niger Delta. I was raised in those creeks. And so immediately the exploration started with the recklessness with which the oil companies approached exploration of oil and gas in the Niger Delta region. We started noticing it. So if we noticed it at that point, it concluded, therefore, for me, as someone with experience of growing up there, that the recklessness started at the time that the Shell and the other oil companies started exploring for oil and gas. As we speak today, we still have the old equipment, the whole pipes that they laid in the 50s. Some of them are still there. And if we bear in mind that these pipes were metal pipes or whatever they were in those days, it's not anything like what it is today, where you have plastic that don't corrode and that type of a situation. Now, it's interesting that we have experts in the area of conservation of nature. Conservation of nature, of course, the Niger Delta area, the fauna, the ocean. We are at the mouth of the Atlantic Ocean, the creeks, the mangroves, the swamps, the forests. I grew up seeing animals like elephants, crocodiles, where I grew up, monkeys, where I grew up. And now those things are not there. I grew up eating
I don't know. We are used to when people are speaking from Nigeria, the network is always breaking up. So, Ms. Briggs, thank you very much, especially for stepping in. This program was meant for Dr. Ujo to actually tell us about their program, and then you interject, ask questions, and then our guest from the UK, Mr. John Vermeer, and so I guess we are meant to listen to them, ask questions, and also tell us about their activities. So what I would suggest is let's wait for Dr. Ujo to sort her network out, and then let's hear from
sorry, she's back. I just spoke to her and she's back. Dr. Ujo.
Okay, let's listen to her first, because her work is very, very major to what we are going to discuss tonight. Let's hope that our network will allow us to proceed.
Okay, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. And I think I was just trying to give a summary of what IUCN does as an international environmental organization of RAPID. Yes, the congresses bring every member of the IUCN together, and of course, it is a democratically it's a democratic process, if I may use that expression, for us to debate on
Okay, I assume her network is giving challenges again. Remember that we are discussing confronting Nigeria's challenge of nature conservation, oil spillage, and deforestation. We're trying to understand what the IUCN does in this regard, and how we can actually help Nigeria's environmental challenges. Dr. Joe is the regional counselor, but it seems her network keeps giving challenges. Dr. Ujo, when you're ready, just let us know if you can hear me. Okay, I think she left again, and hopefully we'll be able to get to hear her and her important work.
Okay.
She's back. She's back. Let's see whether she can.
Okay, Dan, I think you can also bring in Antoinette. Antoinette is also a member of the IUCN, so
Yeah.
she can sit in once in a while.
Okay, our guest, let's listen. Let's try again, Dr. Udo. We're listening to you. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yes, the last Congress that we had in Marseille actually came up with us, urging the government to, continue to pursue the issue of nature-based solutions, especially with respect to seeing that recovering from the global pandemic comes to reality. And of course, the Congress also, brought to the border the issue of the post-2020 biodiversity issue of the, of the UN Convention. And so we from the we members of the IUCN occasionally get elected to positions that will help to advance the tenets for which the organization is known for. And in Africa, I am just one of the regional councillors that was elected during the last Marseille Congress of the IUCN. And so, if I may now go back to the issues that you want me to discuss this evening, I want to say, first of all, that when we talk about nature-based solutions, it touches on everything. It touches on every aspect of the environment. And looking at oil spillage, which is one of the issues raised here. Oil spillage, I look at it as a single environmental factor that stands on its own and has been bedeviling the country in Nigeria and causing confusion in Nigeria's Niger Delta. It is heartwarming to realize that one of the panelists in this meeting is also here to share experiences coming from that region. But I know that the ecological zones of the Nigeria's Niger Delta, be it the coastal barrier islands, be it the mangrove swamp forest, be it the freshwater swamp, or the lowland rainforest, all of these have experienced the problems and challenges that have been caused, that are being caused by oil spillage in the Niger Delta. And so we have seen that the area, which is about 20,000 kilometers squared, hosting about over 20 million people, and also constituting 7.5% of Nigeria's landmass, has been experiencing unprecedented oil spillage over 5 decades, for over 5 decades. And IUCN at some point was involved actually in remediating part of the problems, oil spillage problems that was caused in the Niger Delta, of course, using resources from one of the multinational companies. And so we are aware that, oil spillage has been causing a lot of problem there, affecting community, cultural and economic well-being. And then, of course, when we talk about oil spillage, what do we mean? Spill actually, essentially, is talking about an accidental activity. A spill could be man-made, it could be due to machinery failure, but we know that we have a major issue that causes spill, and that is sabotage. We recognize all these, and we recognize the fact that oil spillage has been causing a lot of problem on the ecosystem, of the Niger Delta, causing ecocide in some areas, tracts of mangrove being affected and even devegetated entirely, making way for invasive alien species to come and occupy an area that was hitherto yielding a lot of resources for the community. And I would want to also say that with respect to deforestation, we look at it as an issue that also concerns us. We're talking about nature-based solutions. There are, there are a lot of drivers that cause it, and it's not what one can start enumerating now. But deforestation, simply to say that it has really been creating a lot of problems. It has been creating a lot of problems in the ecology of across ecological zones of Nigeria. And we know that as of today, Nigeria is battling to see if it can recover and make efforts to move towards the 25% forest cover, which is actually the mandate given by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations to all member nations to strive to get 25% forest cover. But we have programs on ground. There are programs on ground, both at the statutory level and at the non-governmental level, trying to take care of address the issue of deforestation and reduce it, more so when today we are talking about addressing deforestation in order to be able to contribute in curbing global climate change, that is global warming. So I want to say that in all these, we also need to look at the institutions that are on ground, to address all these challenges. And Nigeria, from the structure of my country, there's work at the federal level, there's work at the state level, there's work at the local government level, 3 tiers of government. And I can tell you that this 3 tiers of government is so structured that it's actually supposed to address issues at their various levels and take down opportunities to the grassroots, to villages, to benefit from global environmental, addressing global environmental problems. But, we know that we have we know that there are plans that cascade right from the top down to the bottom, when it comes to addressing global environmental challenges. But I want to say that at the apex level of governance, what we expect is to get policy direction. Policy direction is supposed to come from the apex institutions that now will go down to the lower level structure of institutions. Now, take for instance, we also have legislative actions that are also part of that contribute in taking decisions, and in order to make sure that the right things are done across all levels. Now, coming from the non-governmental sector, these groups act as catalysts to ensure that even plan policies, plan regulations are seen to be recognized by the players that are supposed to take part and make sure that things are done the way they should be done. Now, with respect to oil spillage, we know that at the federal level, we have an agency that is supposed to address oil spillage anywhere it occurs. And that is supposed to ensure, and that agency is supposed to show that identifying oil spillage means that action must be taken. Although statutorily, the agency was created to implement the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan. And so, likewise, at the forestry sector, we have strong institutions, including research institutes, that are established to face the challenges of forest conservation and ensure that deforestation does not continue at an unwanted rate. Now, you mentioned about taking projects and programs to communities to address issues, maybe in the Southeast region, like you mentioned. Yes, IUCN is disposed to being involved in addressing challenges. But remember that IUCN is a global organization. And being a global organization, it tries to reach out to its members in the various corners of the globe. Now, what will happen in the case of a problem in the southeast of Nigeria is for IUCN, is for members within the country to present such a challenge to IUCN. And then after that, it's expected that the necessary surveys and what have you will have to be done. But I can tell you that IUCN provides technical advice. IUCN is a scientific organization, and so it is there to use science in order to help out in where there are problems of where there are challenges and what have you. And so when an issue occurs, when there's a problem, or if there's an identified problem, like the question being brought in this conversation, it is good to be specific, and then we can analyze it and be able to know how we take it up to the IUCN, because that's essentially the part of the work of a regional councillor. You are there to stay from your sub-region to observe problems and to take up those problems to IUCN and get advice. And of course, also relate back to the sub-region as it were. And so I know that there will be a number of, there's quite a lot attached to this topic, and I think I will pause so far so that we can engage further in the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ma. Let us go to Mrs. Vermilier. Mrs. Vermilier, are you there?
Okay.
Antoinette, can you hear me?
Hello, hi everyone. Let me introduce myself, because we're actually based in Switzerland. It's my husband and I, we both work in conservation. We are right next to the IUCN building, which is just the next village down the road. I also grew up in Lagos. My childhood was spent there, and I remember very well the tar on the beaches from the boats that were going by. So, and I lived through the Biafra War. So my history goes back a long, long way, and my heart is very close to it. So it's always been an issue that I follow very closely. So a lot of what you're saying, particularly about the Nigeria Delta, it's heartbreaking because of what it was and what it has become. Obviously, as we also know, there are external and internal conflicts that have actually exacerbated. But the point is that with the IUCN, where we have been involved now for the last 8 years, it is science, it is policy, and it is relaying action from what needs to be done, and therefore also experiences on the front line back. What Gloria Ojo said about nature-based solutions is, it's amazing how we are now coming back round to the importance of these actions, that technology may be a good thing, but we also need to incorporate nature-based solutions. The reason is that also, because of climate change, I'm also a co-founder of an organization called She Changes Climate, which is trying to get more women represented equally in climate negotiations. And the reason is because in the battle of climate change, women and children are the most affected, but they have the least voice. And yet they may have many solutions, but their perspectives are not being incorporated into this. So in these two areas, I've been made very aware of the imbalances that need to be addressed. And in one of these things, in fact, one of the things that Gloria had mentioned about the Marseille Congress, we are personally also involved in one of the motions that was passed there, because when the members, at the moment, we have a climate crisis. And it's very easy to keep researching and researching, but we actually need to move to action. The IPCC explained that we really have about 8 years before the major tipping points are points where we will be only in adaptation and there no prevention. So we really need to act fast. So during that Congress, there was a motion was passed by 70% of the members, of which most were from Africa, for a climate crisis commission. And so our work now is to try and make sure that what we're doing, again, as Gloria had said, is working with the IUCN members worldwide to take all the actions that we can use, because the bottom line is that we must reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, but remembering, and this is where it's very important, it's very easy just to focus on climate change, but climate change is biodiversity, which we are losing at an alarming rate, which is also human health and planetary health, and above all, social justice. And what Annika was talking about in the Niger Delta, that is a definition of everything that's going on there that we need to roll back now.
Okay, let us hear from Mr. Vermillion. Mr. Vermillion.
Sure. First of all, I've got to say, having Dr. Ujoran and Keo Briggs, it's fantastic to see you, because at a distance from Switzerland, what can we do? We know the challenges, or we understand the challenges of the Niger Delta and the oil companies. This is probably one of the greatest challenges that we see looking globally. And for everybody on this call to understand that the challenges that you're facing are not just seen in Nigeria. They're not something you should accept and live with, but there's something that all of us share and would like to provide the support, or at least the moral support that we can to you, because your challenges are enormous. Let me pick up on the climate issue. I deal a lot with ocean issues, but that brings me to coastal issues. So just as a quick recap, what's the link between the oceans and climate, and then coastal communities to climate? Well, first of all, I think everybody here knows that the ocean absorbs more of the extra heat that we're producing. So what happens with that? Well, the water expands. That raises the sea levels. It melts the ice. It raises the sea levels. The carbon dioxide, the extra carbon dioxide that we are producing, is absorbed by the oceans. That's changing the pH balance in the oceans. It's making it more acidic. It's actually killing corals and shellfish. The next is that it's changing the balance of oxygen in the ocean, deoxygenation. So you see that it's a complete mess that's going on based on just the greenhouse gases. Now let's bring it closer to shore, something very important to the coastal communities of Nigeria. There are processes involved. We talked about mangroves. Dr. Ujor mentioned mangroves. I think most of you may know mangroves sequester 4 times more carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases than terrestrial forests. Coastal seagrasses sequester twice as many. But these are so important for other reasons. Just to recap, biodiversity, the mangroves and the seagrasses are really the nurseries of the ocean. that provide the food that we need to get with our artisanal fishermen offshore. They are also part of the resilience that we need from storms. Again, the mangroves help absorb the waves from storms. So just to put it back into perspective, if we look at what's happening in the Niger Delta upstream, and then we realize what's happening from the oceans to the coasts, you have a double set of challenges. And that's the perspective that I wanted to bring today. And that's why it's so important that we've got to attack both of these.
Thank you so much. Remember that you can join this conversation simply by raising up your digital hand, and I'll try to take as much questions and comments as possible. Let us listen to Ms. Briggs. Ms. Briggs, you're the expert on Niger Delta and environment, especially as it concerns your region. What do you think?
Well, I'm really very happy and excited, because this is the first time in the decades that I have campaigned for the environment of the Niger Delta, that I'm actually finding a situation where experts in how it affects the whole world are actually prepared to discuss the oil spills that is happening in the Niger Delta. Because I think that in Nigeria, we have so allowed it to be seen as a political issue that we have lost sight of the fact that the spill that is happening in the Niger Delta over the past 50 years, close to 60 years, is actually part of a major contributing factor to global warming. For me to see the destruction and the fact that it affects the livelihood of the people, and really and truly the fact that the Niger Delta seem to be so angry and so frustrated is purely because of the fact of the devastation that we have endured for Nigeria to gain access to the economical value that the oil brings. And so it now puts us in a pocket as if we're so myopic and all we're just talking about is oil and gas, oil and gas. No, it's our future. And really what we're now finding out is that it's not just our future, it's the future of the whole wide world, because we contribute a lot. And so I want to encourage anybody, any groups out there, environmental conservationists, really, like the one that the late Prince Philip was heading, that they need to really pay attention to what has happened in the Niger Delta. It's not political. They must not allow us in Nigeria to see it as a political issue, but to see it as an issue that is contributing to the destruction of the world when it comes to environment and ecological things. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
All right, we thank you very much, our eminent guests. And we know many of us have questions to ask. But let me quickly say at this juncture that please, this meeting is about how we all of us can be part of the solution. And it's not meant to be an academic exercise, if I may put it that way. So let me shoot with the first question, and then others will now join in. Please, Dr. Ujo Gloria.
Yeah.
How has the Nigerian government, both at the federal and state level, how have they cooperated with an organization such as yours in finding solutions to the problem of deforestation, ecological problems, and how can we all be part of the solution?
Yeah, thank you. Can I respond now?
Yes, please, yes.
Okay. Yes, the process for IUCN membership, there's a process. Governments have to indicate interest in becoming members. And then, of course, they will go through the process and get registered. IUCN, I must confess that from my NGO, as far back as 2004 or so, maybe some of you know the later Professor Emmanuel Obot of the NCF. The two of us, and of course he comes from the Niger Delta, I know. The two of us have actually tried to push Nigerian government to become a state member of the IUCN, because we have different categories of members. We have government members, and then we have corporate and what have you. Nigeria, as of today, is regarded as a state member of the IUCN. But I think I am not in a position to confirm that. I think the Federal Ministry of Environment, which is the focal organization for this membership, should be in a position to indicate the status of this state membership of IUCN. Now, but I can tell you that if Nigeria becomes a full state member, having a national committee as it should be, that is, national committee implies bringing all state and non-state actors of IUCN within a country, to form a committee. That's a national committee. That will carry a heavier voice for attracting IUCN intervention in any environmental challenge we have in Nigeria. That is a first step. The other step is that through the non-governmental organizations, there are actually two strong ones in Nigeria. The Nigerian Conservation Foundation is a foremost member of the IUCN. Then my organization, the Nigerian Environmental Study Action Team, is another member of the IUCN. And through these members, it is possible to relate with the IUCN on any teething environmental issue. I mentioned to you earlier that a few years back, there was a small intervention IUCN carried out in Ogoni area with respect to remediation, soil remediation. And that work, that lasted for quite, for a few years, like I said, and Shell was able to provide resources for that intervention. Because I mentioned that IUCN as a scientific organization provides expertise and provides solution through engaging the right experts to address environmental issues. And so I believe that the first thing to do in this case is to ascertain the status of Nigerian state membership. Thank you.
Marcel?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Madam. Marcel, over to you.
Thank you so much, and Dan, and thank you so much for making this happen. Antoinette and John, sorry, I'm going to be putting you on the spot as usual. And thanks so much for coming within the shortest invitation. Now, my question is this: we understood things from the Nigerian angle from Dr. Gloria. So from the international angle, sitting just behind IUCN, how can you help us?
Yeah.
I think, again, it goes back to two things: coming towards the ocean and from the ocean. Coming from clearly, so Dr. Ujo was just talking about the soil restoration project. The issue, of course, is contamination of the soil, which extends for many hundreds of square kilometers, from what I understand. That is a very significant process. It requires actually going down much deeper than we normally would. So if you think of restoring mangroves, again, to get them back to their capacity to sequester carbon and to be healthy biosphere zones, it's an enormous project. I know some of the people who were involved in that project, and they're working with us on something called Fair Carbon. The Fair Carbon project is meant to allow local communities to take advantage of restoring and protecting their own local ecosystems, be it terrestrial, mangroves, or even coastal, for example, seagrasses. The problem today is that for those projects, about 60 to 80% of the money that they would receive from, let's say, carbon credits gets actually spent outside with consultants. So the value to the local communities is just not there. It's not a good incentive. So what we're doing is working with the IUCN, WWF, and other organizations to take what is expensive about creating a local project and getting rid of that cost. The first component of that is the consultants, quite frankly, that fly in and help you design your project. Why should that be, paid by a project every time? So we're taking all that information and we're going to be putting it online for free for projects to use. So we take about a third of the cost right out of the way. The second element is if you have a carbon sequestration project, you have to validate it. And that's third-party validation. Again, the way that's worked is very expensive, about 25% of the cost. People flying down to wherever it is, going around, taking pictures and measurements, and then flying away and giving their report. Why? There's a much better way to do that. So in this Fair Carbon platform that we're providing, it's the ability for local projects to upload all the information that needs to be assessed by other people. They don't need to fly down. And by the way, now with satellite technology, we can validate that from space. With a single pixel, we can now tell what species of mangroves there are. With LiDAR and satellite technology, we can see that the area is being protected and that it's not being degraded by, for example, oil leakage. So we think that we can flip the process around. And how can we help Nigeria? By having a system where local communities can actually earn carbon credits that they can use within their own communities, as we have seen in other places, for example, in East Africa, where a local community has earned enough money to put in a water tower and distribution to the homes. They've been able to build a clinic within their village. They've been able to upgrade their school. Why? Because the system now it makes economic sense for them. So that's my first quick answer. And we are working with the IUCN on this.
Okay, just before we take Ms. Briggs, I see Kingsley Michael. You have been updating the chat box. Kingsley Michael, would you like to say something?
I'm sorry, Neka, please. With regards to Marcel's question, Antoinette, I don't know whether you have anything to add to what your husband has said.
I think at the end of the day, I think John has given a very good action plan that is on the bigger scale. I tend to look on a much wider scale, and Marcel knows this very well, is that what can we as individuals do? And I think when we're talking about the Niger Delta, this is a huge problem. But at the end of the day, let's go back to the bigger picture. How can we reduce our greenhouse gas emissions? And that's the first thing. It's cleanup and it's prevention. So on an individual level, one of my big things, as he knows, is to eat less meat. And that we had a talk about this about 2 years ago, because when I was young, it wasn't meat every day in Nigeria, and neither was it for him. So it's the whole social acceptance that we have to eat meat all the time. Those are huge things that are a major contributor to greenhouse gases. That is one way of reducing. That does not in any way deflect the importance of cleanup and restoring the Niger Delta. The Niger it's half of Africa. It is so vitally important. And then we also need to worry about agricultural runoff that is going off into the oceans as well for ocean deoxygenation. So, it's again how we treat our soil, how we treat our food and food creation. These are areas where, again, going back to Dr. Ujo's mentioning about nature-based solutions, we do need to give them much more priority than we have in the past. Not everything is going to be magically done with one technological fix. These are systems that have worked for many years prior to this, and we need to actually bring them back into the picture.
All right, thank you. Neka, back to you.
All
Thank you.
right, Kinsley Michael.
Yeah, I'm
Kinsley
here. Good evening,
Michael,
everybody.
contribution.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Mr. John and Mr. and Mrs. John and Gloria, I really appreciate for all the contribution done so far. I am Michael Kingsley from Delta State, though I'm based in Lagos. There, I would say Delta has really been a place of Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go.
I'm trying to, yeah.
Trying.
Okay.
Can you hear me better now? Is it better now?
Actually, it's clearer.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Yes.
A bit loud. If you speak a bit louder, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Mr. John and Madam Antoinette. Madam Gloria, I really
Yeah.
appreciate your vast research regarding our government, our all regions, and the Niger Delta. Actually, it has not been easy. It has not been easy by the government and our regions in the sense that the reason why I see that the reason why the government, Nigerian government, is actually looking at it that the oil well being a Delta state when this oil is being extracted is that the reason why they are looking at it that the Niger Deltans are fighting them. But if you look at it with a common sense, they are not actually fighting. They're not actually fighting. For example,
Yeah.
I come to your house and I have you have what I wanted. I should be able to make peace with you in order to get what I wanted from you, if in a common sense. Now, just like the contribution that Mr. John, just like what Mr. John has said, that he can provide solutions to some of these things only if we can be able to come together and have and liaise with the government on behalf. If Mr. John can meet meet with government on behalf of us to be able to make all these things, all the solutions come to play. The truth is, even in Niger Delta, where this product has been extracted, is not benefiting the way the northerners and the eastern part of the southern part of Nigeria, and the way they are enjoying the wealth. The
Mr.
people
Mike,
that actually have this
Michael,
product, they are not
Mr.
getting it.
Michael, can you hear me?
Oh, it's skipping. I can hear you now.
Please, can you summarize? We are almost out of time.
Okay.
So give you just 30 seconds to make your summary and so we can move on.
Okay, so I would say that we really have to involve the government with the help of Mr. John to provide solution to this issue, to this menace, because it has not been easy. And if you check our water is being polluted day in, day out, because definitely people keep on mining, searching for a better one in there. So I would implore everyone to put hand on that to be able to provide solution to this particular problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Let us listen to Ms. Briggs. Ms. Briggs.
Thank you so very much. I think that Kingsley has gone a little bit into the area that I will be coming from. And I want to take it from a position of questioning, first of all, for Dr. Ujo. And that is to ask specifically, and I think part of that question have already been answered, but I put it down and I said, about Nigeria becoming a member of the IUCN, they will, knowing Nigeria the way we are, and I don't want Augusta to stop me, so I'll just make my point that knowing the way we are in Nigeria, the will to do this, which is the right thing to do, is very weak, and we need help, like Kingsley has suggested, from people like Antoinette and John and their organization to help us, especially as Nigeria as a country, but specifically as the Niger Delta people who are suffering the brunt of this thing, that the government should see its responsibility, not just to the Niger Delta, but to the world, in what the role of any government. It doesn't matter whether any part of the country the president will come from or is from. What is important is what should be done and how it must be done. Then coming to the issue of getting together to begin remediation, because as Gloria and Antoinette and John knows, the level of devastation that is in the Niger Delta, the UN has said it would take between 30 to 50 years. If you look at the ongoing spills now, that is as a direct result, and very terribly so, of what we locally call coal fire, which is really a crude way of bringing gas and petrol and kerosene and all of that. And actually, the reason is very economical for the people that are doing it, and it is also a need, because the people that actually produce the crude oil are actually not able to access the finished product that is imported into Nigeria. And so it has to go by boat, by river to get to them. So it's more expensive. So basically now you find a situation where they crudely do this. So first of all, it can be cheap. And second of all, it can create jobs. This can actually be done.
All right. Ms. Briggs, your network stopped? Have you concluded? Are you back now?
All these fumes in River State and in the Niger Delta right now, and it's killing people. And so we need your intervention with our government for politicians to not see this as a means of enriching themselves, but as a means of securing and saving the environment and sustaining the future of the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. The destruction that is coming from the Niger Delta is playing a major role in destroying the Atlantic Ocean, which will also get to other oceans. So I want to ask, therefore, quickly, that can you not work with NGOs? Because you see, if you pick credible NGOs that you can work with, first of all, the people need to understand how dangerous, what danger we face in the Niger Delta. And then the people need to understand their role that they have to play in making sure that we become part of the solution. No matter how angry we are, we need to be part of the solution. And the government needs to understand that this is not part of their politics. It is something that we at the grassroots has to be involved in. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Just before I take the last question from Mazio Koye, I'd ask that if you're interested, please put your contact details in the chat box so we can continue this conversation when we round up for today. Mazio Koye, I'll give you just a minute because we are totally out of time. Mazio Koye, if you're there.
Yeah, thank you, Augusta. I think we have to establish something here. The problem at the Niger Delta is an environmental disaster. And when you talk about conservation, you need to solve a crisis first before you get to conserving anything. This makes me think that the Western world, especially the people that compounded this problem, has turned a blind eye on the problem. They're actually being, there's a lot of double standards here, because we know how long it took to clean up this oil spill of Mexico coast, of the Gulf of Mexico. We know how long it took to clean that up. So for all this UN telling us that, it's going to take 40 or 50 years to do this or do that. To me, I think it's just double standard. If the world recognize the crisis we are in, they were going to have to employ more resources to clean up that place. That place is not bigger than the oil spill off the Mexico coast that happened about in 2010. So to me, I think that the world doesn't want to solve this problem because there's a crisis there. And for you to conserve, you need to solve the issue of the crisis that you have at hand. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Felix, please, quickly. Mr. Felix Oti, quickly, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I was listening to Ms. Briggs, and I was actually waiting for her to make that link between the responsibility of the government, the oil companies, and the people. I have traveled the creeks about 12 years ago, and I am married to a family that is involved in fire. So I know the damages that go on there. If the IUCN or any other NGO can engage the people of the community to make a relationship between their activities and the impact on their health and economic well-being, it will go a very long way to solving this problem. Because if you depend on the government, 80% of the Nigerian population do not feel what happens in the South. The government is going to agree on anything that you put in front of them and move on. So the people of the community has to be engaged in solving the problem. So the IUCN and any other agency that is responsible for enlightenment and proffering solutions should be called upon to come in and help.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's quickly take the concluding comments from Dr. Gloria Ujo, please. Can you have listened to some of our concerns and the comments. Exactly. How do you summarize your contribution tonight?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think I think I'm very, very glad that this conversation came to be at this time and this evening. I think it's going to be a food for thought for me, visiting the council, IUCN council meeting once again. And for sure, it's something that we have to gradually table once again. Niger Delta region is described as the most polluted region in the world. And I think that is alarming, to imagine that we come from a country like that and there's been a lot of misgiving with respect to the way the problems are being addressed. And so I also agree that this problem is a responsibility of government, oil company, the people living within the Niger Delta. And then, of course, for any intervention project, I agree with Ms. Briggs that the people should be involved. It's absolutely important. I am aware of the UNEP report and then the activities that are ongoing there, although with a lot of misgivings.
Please, I will call you back.
Hello.
I will call you back. I'm in a meeting.
Wow. Okay.
I'm so sorry. Continue.
Yes,
so sorry.
yeah. Okay. So I totally agree. In using nature-based solutions, we recognize the fact that indigenous communities have a role to play. They have local knowledge. They have indigenous knowledge, and there is no way, such an intervention in the region of the Niger Delta region will be carried out without involving fully the people that are on ground. Yeah. And I think the issue of resources, not being adequately, channeled when we get them even to do something. It is a problem that it's also in the front burner for everyone. And I believe that the discussions like this should actually be coming up from time to time, because this region, I tell you, nobody is happy about it, whether you come from the region or you do not come from the region. So I see this as a step forward in trying to look into the issues of the Niger Delta, and we should encourage it to continue. The current activities ongoing, remediation or Ogoni land and what have you, it's also such activities can actually be reviewed from time to time. Conversations like this should be taken forward, and so that people can open their ears and eyes to see whether there's any impact or how much of an impact with respect to claimed activities that are going on, whether they actually are achieving what they are supposed to achieve and what have you. It's very, very important that we recover the Niger Delta as much as possible. It's absolutely important because the people do not have anywhere to go. And an added problem in the Niger Delta is gas flaring. But this is an issue that should be discussed at another platform. When we think about the Niger Delta, we're never happy to, realize that we come from we are all part Nigerians, and some of us come from there, and we are not able to see much of an activity going on. IUCN is ever willing to help out where there are honest efforts, where there is transparency where it is proven that there will be transparency in carrying out activities. I'm sure IUCN will be able to show interest in being part of that problem. And so I think it's been a pleasure for me to be involved in this discussion. We may not have exhausted everything that we need to say, but I would thank you for this opportunity given me to be part of this conversation.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Ujo. Let's listen to Antoinette, please. What will be your concluding comments and any plan of action going from what we have discussed today?
Well, one of the interesting things here is that all of these activities that are going on do not take into account the externalities. And any business, any operation that is to be allowed to proceed must now start to take account and pay for those externalities. So if a company or any business is doing any harm to the environment, they need to be paying a price for it. They need to be remediation. This is something that now, this is going back to how could the IUCN help? The reason is you need the science. You need the science to be able to say, this is an externality, this is a limit, and this is where you are exceeding it. That is the area where the science can help. But there is much more involved. We need governments and we need businesses to really step up on that. And that's where we can all make huge differences.
Thank you very much.
I just want to say how honored we are to have been included in this. This is a thing that is very close to my heart. And I am so upset. I have been, and it is so good to see so many people interested and action, and that's where we want to go to. So we'll be in touch.
I thank you very much. John, please, any concluding comments, John? All right. Okay, please. Okay, I think my suggestion of an action plan would be that if we research now, I'm sure Ms. Briggs has an NGO, a Niger Delta NGO, and look for other honest NGOs as well as suggested by Gloria, and see if we can link up together going forward and see how we can get the Nigerian government to take one of the things you suggested, which I'm not sure is popular in Nigeria, is about carbon. I think, what do they call it here? Carbon
offsets.
Yeah, exactly. So get companies to whatever damage you pay to the environment, you offset it somehow. Yes. Yeah. So I think I used the right word. Okay. So let's have this conversation going forward and see how we can see an action taken by, especially the Nigerian government, NGOs, and peoples. I think time would not allow for me to bring up my own problem. I come from Eastern Nigeria, where the major ecological problem is soil erosion. So maybe next time we see whether we have governmental agencies or NGOs dealing with soil erosion. It's a very big problem, I tell you. In my village, entire communities have been cut off by soil erosion. It's a very, very big issue in Eastern Nigeria, but it is not a topic for the day. Thank you very much, Dr. Gloria. It's been a very much pleasure listening to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and just before we allow us to go, kindly remember to please leave your emails in the chat box so we can contact you going forward. That's as much as we can take on today's press conference and Power by News.Band Television. We have been discussing confronting Nigeria's challenge of nature conservation, oil spillage, and deforestation. Special thanks to our guest that did justice to this topic, Dr. Gloria Ujo. She's the Regional Counselor for International Union for the Conservation of Nature. She's also the Executive Director, the Nigerian Environmental Study Action Team. Thank you so much, Ma, for honoring our invitation today.
Thank you.
Okay, and also special thanks to Mr. John Vermilier. He's the Chairman, Gallifrey Foundation, Travel Century, Okoban, and the co-chair for Mission Blue. Special thanks also to Antoinette Vermilier, co-founder, Gallifrey Foundation, and She Changes Climate. So if you want to reach out to them, just go to the chat box where I think your email has been dropped. So, or you can just reach out to News.Band Television and we'll see if we can connect you to these people doing amazing work in the climate change. But that's as much as we can take right now. We have another conference that was scheduled to hold by 8 p.m. actually. And we're trying to discuss the security implications of the emergence of unknown gunmen and kidnappers in Delta State, with particular reference to Ibusa. And we have an appointment with His Royal Highness, one of our guests, one of our very, very popular guests. He's now a Royal Highness, and I think he's here already. I'll talk to Mr. Eloba now to do justice to that.
One second, please. So let's conclude the first part. All right, thank you, Antoinette and John. It's been a pleasure to have you. We'll keep the conversation going, and we'll definitely keep in touch through myself and see how we can develop an action plan with Mixed Bricks and Dr. Ujo to see how we can help some of the communities that have been affected by ecological problems in Nigeria. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Madam Gloria. It's a pleasure meeting you. Bye.
Thank you, Miss Briggs. Yeah.
I sent you my email.
Yeah, okay. I will use it. Yeah, I'll send it. Okay. Let me type here my email, but Gloria.
Thanks so much, Madam Gloria. We are happy to see you here. We've been hearing of your good works. So we will get in touch and see how we can work things out with you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Madam Gloria?
Yes.
Your email was not sent here. I've not seen your email.
I've just typed in, but it has not gone. I've just typed my email. I hope you're still there.
I'm still here. It doesn't drop here.
Yeah, all right. Do you, if you have our contact,
I can send it to
yes.
NECA.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send it to NECA.
And then you can just get it from me. I'm Stella, but I think you need to stop the live streaming and then start again for the new program.
Oh, yes, that's true.
And while Mr. Lumba is doing that, remember that you should remain here. We are